So this video is for paper 3 of AQA economics and specifically providing quick tips for the 25 mark question. So the structure isn't really any different to other 25 mark questions from, for example, paper 1 or paper 2. But this question will be more open and you'll have more support in the contextual extracts. So what has the examiners said in recent years? To begin with, let's focus on those answers which scored highly. Some more effective answers included diagrams. These diagrams supported whether that was analysis or evaluation, it supported both. Clearly, the more sophisticated the diagrams are, the greater the chances of adding more value to your point. How important the extracts are? They provide the clues, they give you the prompts, and such language in these examiners' reports as disappointing when students have not used the hints tells you exactly what the examiners expect. Now, you have to use the case study, that's absolutely essential, but it's also worth remembering, and this is just a reminder, that this whole section is kind of a role play with a given scenario, and you have a certain role to play in that investigation. And when you get into that 25 mark question, and when you're giving that judgment and you're evaluating, it needs to be from that perspective. It's also worth pointing out that within any 25 mark question, the evaluation is absolutely crucial. And one piece of advice which has been constantly mentioned in previous years is thinking about such factors as timescale. So for example, the short run versus the long run. Clearly, it does depend on what the question's asking, but it's all about that weight. And it's been said that students who did not devote enough time to this overall judgment struggled to move up to level 4 and had no chance, for example, of achieving level 5. So, what is the difference between a level 4 and 5? Well, as you can see from the language, it's simply a well-supported evaluation and well-focused analysis. Any doubts on this, then level 5 will not be accessible. So obviously, that evaluation is absolutely essential. And that should be evaluation throughout, but it's also that overall judgment. So anyway, let's have a look at some past paper questions. So this first scenario, you're an investigator for the standard of living of UK citizens, and it's based on the time frame of 2007 and 8 to the year that this was obviously assessed. The next, you're working for OPEC and you're reviewing the energy market for them. So you are working for OPEC. And again, that might have an impact on how you recommend and the judgments that you make. Another, an economic consultant working for the government and considering the importance of manufacturing. And the final one, which we will focus on, is you are working for the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, and you're focused on the UK housing market. So should the government increase spending? Well, straight away, this is from an extract and it says housing is the most basic of human needs, which emphasises the importance of this type of good. So what we'll do in this video is we'll do a quick plan. So whilst reading parts of the extracts to consider what the structure of the answer can be, and hopefully what we'll do is highlight how important that application is. So I've picked out some key information. And if we consider how the median average has changed, so for example, the median house prices is almost 8 times the median earnings. The difficulty in buying a house with 2.2 million households with below average income. Also, the knock-on effect of income being spent on this rather than other spending on the economy. And with population growth, we can see that these houses are being under-consumed. And if they're being under-consumed, and they're so important as a basic need, it could be considered a merit good, and therefore this underconsumption and this under-allocation of resources could also suggest that market failure has taken place. And in fact, it even states that it is a merit good in the case study. So that's a key prompt, and that's something that you cannot neglect and you cannot ignore. You have to consider it. Now, on the last slide, we had data. But don't forget the data in the earlier extracts and how you can support that in linking with other points. So for example, we've got the house prices, we've got the weekly earning data, and could this be used to add further weight to the underconsumption and the market failure and the reasons for it? But clearly you need balance. And you need to consider that government intervention, that previous government intervention, and I suppose the success of it. There has been examples of government intervention which has had unintended consequences. And these unintended consequences have caused government failure. So, for example, too many demand-side policies causing prices to rise. There are examples of government failure. So then what should happen? If we're worried about government failure, should it really just be left to the free market? And should we follow Adam Smith's invisible hand? Should we allow it to the signal and incentive and rationing functions? I mean, it does allude to how price controls have disrupted the price mechanism and distorted the signaling function already in this case study. And that might be some of the evidence you need to support a counter-argument or an evaluation point. It also mentions macro factors, such as the budget deficit. Now, clearly this will accumulate to national debt. So again, let's use the data. Let's consider this £46 million and how this increases, it creates further opportunity costs and the possibility of the crowding out effect. These are all factors to consider, and both could easily be brought into that counter-argument. But of course, we also have to remember that evaluation is needed throughout. So consider how you could structure the points, the evaluative language you could use. Why not specifically judge, as an economist, working on behalf of the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, that this evidence would or wouldn't suggest the government being able to intervene? But the final judgment, the question remains the same. Is it for state provision or is it for private sector provision? And you have to make this judgment very, very clear in your overall evaluation. So you have to make sure you place weight. Make sure to assess your previous analysis. Make sure to compare and contrast these analytical arguments. Yes, we've said that the deficit will increase. Yes, we've said it will impact national debt. But this spending may actually serve more than one purpose. Not only does it improve social efficiency, but it might also result in growth. The injection may create multipliers, maybe even accelerators. What could the impact of this be on long-run growth? Will it boost geographical mobility? Would the opportunity cost of this spending diminish in the long run and actually allow greater spending in the future due to the returns of this growth? And again, even more weight. Is the invisible hand actually working? Does the evidence support it? Throughout this case study, there's been clear examples of market failure, especially as population grows. So I would suggest that intervention is needed, but it has to be the right intervention, and it has to be supply side. So, to end this video, let's consider some last ideas regarding technique, and hopefully these tips will help. So number one, the case study is all about the context. It's so important. I can't emphasize it enough. It'll direct you. It'll support your points. It'll strengthen your analysis and evaluation. Use the data, all the data, not just the qualitative, but the quantitative too. Now, you have to remember you've already answered the 10 marker at this stage. You know the quantitative data well. And therefore, it should be easy for you, based on your understanding of the 10 marker, to then use it to evidence your points in this 25 marker. Also, try not to force points. And what I mean by that is concepts, theoretical concepts. Students sometimes believe that they have to include both macro and micro and force these concepts, but it should be natural. The case study will give you those prompts. If you're bringing in concepts which really it's not referred to in the case study, it might suggest that you go enough points. And finally, the evaluation is so important. If you aspire for that level 5, and that level 5 is from 21 to 25, well, what's your decision? Have you placed weighted judgment? Is it fully justified? Remember to devote enough time to your overall judgment. That's what the examiner report said. Make sure you do if you want to get those higher levels. So anyway, I hope this video helps. Good luck for your paper 3 exam for this year 13 group of 2022. Good luck for Monday and obviously for future years. I hope it's useful.